There's a shift happening in Airbnb investing. More people are undergoing the transition from traditional Airbnb investing to what we're going to talk about today. And for those of you that don't know me, I started with residential Airbnbs and I got financially free by buying and renovating and managing houses with guest houses or extra units on the same lot and then renting them out on Airbnb. So I went to commercial multifamily and I syndicated an apartment complex. And from there, I married the two things I knew well at that point, like Airbnb investing and commercial real estate. And my foray into boutique hotels was born. Since then, I bought a $17 million portfolio of 6 boutique hotels consisting of over 200 units. And now, more and more people are making a transition just like that. The interest in the boutique hotel niche is really starting to grow, and I've seen it with my own eyes at conferences and online, and more people are starting to buy or even look at buying boutique hotels. But it's just catching momentum, and I'm going to show you how you can ride that wave. But where's all this coming from, and how does one go from buying Airbnbs into buying hotels? Well, that's what I'm going to show you today. I think this migration into bigger deals and jumping into the commercial side of STR investing with hotels is the natural progression of Airbnb investors learning and growing and scaling their portfolios. And you can do it too. And think about it. How comfortable would you be closing a hotel for your very first deal? Probably not very, but once you get a few STRs under your belt, or even once you manage a portfolio of them, that gap isn't so large. Like when I bought my very first commercial multifamily property and converted all the units into short-term rentals, it was only 8 units, a very manageable deal size. And before that, I had 8 residential STRs already. So it didn't feel like that big of a jump. And now other investors in the space are doing the same. Like Tony and Sarah Robinson, the Real Estate Robinsons, they just bought their first motel or converting it into a boutique hotel motel. And this came after honing their skills in the STR space and becoming the experts in that realm. And Rob Abasolo, Mr. Robill himself, is getting into the space too. And after doing his tiny houses and Airbnbs and glamping, he bought a hotel that he's renovating and converting to a boutique hotel as well. So you see, we've all taken that path of buying residential short-term rentals and then honing our skills by learning the in and outs of managing our portfolios and then leveraging that experience and the network to take down larger deals. So that's the secret, not what you do, but how you go about doing it and set yourself up for success in the space. So how do you take these examples and go replicate that success for yourself? I'm glad you asked. Your first step is to educate yourself on commercial real estate and hotels. For this first step, spend time researching commercial real estate because commercial real estate acts like a business. And when you're buying a hotel, you're actually buying a business. I put together a whole video on the operations of boutique hotels, and that's worth watching if you want to familiarize yourself with that side of things. And also, if there are hotel or hospitality brands that you know or like, look at what they do and how they set themselves apart. Like brands like the Marriott Tribute Portfolio or Lodge or Getaway House are great examples of how to do this niche the right way. Another tip is to find a mentor. Like find someone who has done what you want to do. In a business, you can either pay with your time and struggle along until you figure it out, or you pay with money and flatten your learning curve to achieve your goals faster. And I have my boutique hotel mastermind where I teach people all the lessons that I've learned on how to find and fund and operate boutique hotels. And I'll put that link below if you guys are interested. And it doesn't always have to be part of a paid mentorship, but in my experience, that's been the best way that I've been able to scale my own skill set. And with an asset class like boutique hotels, there's value in paying to learn skills rather than taking the time to learn them on your own, because you're also going to fail and probably cost yourself money in doing so. I just recently had a member of my mastermind close his first deal, and he's using all the systems provided in the mastermind to set up his hotel operations and build his team and put the systems in place so he can manage it from 12 hours away. And those are the things that by far and away will make a huge difference in fast tracking your success. Now, the second key to making that transition from residential short-term rentals into boutique hotels is to understand the similarities and the differences between STRs and boutique hotels. So because the transition from residential to commercial includes a change in the asset class, let's discuss the differences between the asset types and why I think there's a massive opportunity right now. If you're watching this video, it means you're already ahead of that curve. So with residential short-term rentals, valuations are based on the comps of other similar homes in the area. So your value is limited to the area that you're buying in based on the price of the other homes around you. And another thing is you have one guest at a time and you have individual spaces. There's also the risk of regulation, like more municipalities around the country are enacting regulation that hinders your ability to rent houses as short-term rentals. Then you have higher volatility with occupancy because you only have one unit to rent. If it's vacant, you aren't producing any revenue. And then it's harder to scale with individual properties. This might be debated, but In my experience, more transactions are harder to navigate, and you have more closings, you have to deal with more lenders, and it's spread out to where you have to furnish the multiple units at different times. So you lose a lot of efficiency when you're scaling with the residential short-term rentals. Now for boutique hotels, your valuation is based on the income. So hotels are commercial, so their value is based on the NOI, or the net operating income. And the higher the income, the higher the value, regardless of the income or the value of the other hotels in the area. And then you have many guests at a time, right? So you have more demand there. You have shared spaces, and you have group amenities that you can spread the cost over all the units at your hotel. So a hot tub at a hotel with 10 units costs 1/10 as much per unit as when you're buying a hot tub for a house. And then there's no risk for regulation. Like, hotels are already zoned for nightly rental use. You also have a lower chance of occupancy volatility because of the higher unit count. If one unit sits vacant, you still have all the other ones that can be rented and producing revenue for you. And then, in my opinion, because I've seen it, I've been through it, it's easier to scale. Like, one transaction makes much more impact, and you can focus on fewer deals because they have more income to spread out. You can scale faster by raising outside capital. All right, now let's discuss the similarities, the things that are common between hotels and between STRs. And these are the things that enable that transition, because if you're already coming from a short-term rental background, you probably already have that foundation. And the first is that operational foundation. Like, if you run STRs, you're already likely managing things like automation and revenue management and housekeeping standards and processes. It's the same thing with hotels, it's just more robust. And then second is your guest service. Like, you already know the customers and their reviews are the lifeblood of your business, and you've already set up your property and your operations to satisfy your guests. So it's those same things taken at a larger scale. And then the last of the similarities is that it's still a hospitality business. And make no mistake, if you own and operate short-term rentals, you're already running a hospitality business. You might just not realize it yet. So when you view your business from that lens, you see things that you need to change or that you need to implement based on providing a better service to your customers, because that will compound your reputation and lead to increased performance. Now, the third piece of transitioning from short-term rentals to boutique hotels is to recognize the parts of running a boutique hotel that you may not be aware of yet. Because before I ever invested in boutique hotels, I didn't know what I didn't know. So this will be to expose some of those aspects that you may or may not be aware of yet that will really help to smooth out that transition. And the first thing that becomes a necessity and will really help with how much you're involved in the day-to-day operations is hiring. And the cool thing about boutique hotels is they have the revenue to outsource from the start. It's not properties that take you to the next level, it's your people. And one book on this that I can't recommend enough is the book on hiring. This helps you learn how to build your system for finding and screening and interviewing and training your team to become your dream team. And the next thing you need to know is the differences in the systems and processes. Because the increase in unit count and the amount of people on site at your property, that brings more demand on your systems. And with hotels, people come from all over. And the one thing you don't deal with Airbnbs is guests calling you to get information on the property or to book. With hotels, you get a lot more calls. And this is just one example of the added things that you're gonna have to build a system for, like how you process calls or how you handle guest disputes or early check-ins, because everyone at a hotel wants to check in early, it seems. So a tangible step here is to review what you have in place for these things now, and then ask yourself, what if the number of occurrences of this thing increased by 10x? Then plan and build systems and processes for that. Now, one of the things that becomes really apparent in the differences is your increased depth in underwriting hotel deals. It's not like Airbnbs when you look at the annual revenue that you can easily pull from AirDNA with relative certainty there because it's so robust. Because when you're buying boutique hotels, the data sources for revenue vary, and you'll need to look at more sources of data depending on the kind of hotel you have. And a hotel with bigger units or kitchens or kitchenettes and potentially bedrooms is going to rent a lot more like a typical Airbnb listing, so that AirDNA data will be more accurate. But a standard single king or double queen hotel room, you'll need to pull data from the trend report on str.com. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive to get hotel data from str.com, but that's for Smith Travel Report, and it's all the aggregated hotel data. It's like AirDNA for hotels. And then you have more expenses like labor cost and all your various maintenance costs across the hotel, and more that you might not think of if you're used to analyzing Airbnbs. Plus, this is a really big point. You need to break out your underwriting into a monthly pro forma and not just look at it on an annual basis. Because hotels, like STRs, are seasonal and the income will vary widely from month to month and from high season to low season, and your expenses will be higher than with Airbnbs. So you need to know what your monthly cash flow will be to determine the cash reserves that you'll need to keep. And trust me on this one, I've had to do one capital call in my life. It was because I underwrote my very first hotel on an annual basis instead of monthly, and I missed the fact that we bottomed out in our cash on the low season at the end of our renovation and we're gonna run out of cash. So break out your numbers monthly so you don't make that same mistake. And now that you know what to look for and the pieces to put in place, let's talk about the path to getting your first hotel. All right, this is the fun part where you start to put the pieces together and you recognize the potential already of boutique hotels, right? You're sold because there's less regulation and higher income potential and being able to hire people from the start to do the work so that you don't have to. And you're ready to go out to buy your first hotel. And the most common path that I've seen and what I would recommend is to start with a smaller commercial property that opens the door to bigger and better properties. Like, you don't need to buy a luxury, huge property to start. Like, sure, like my last deal was 130 units. It was a hotel and resort, but there was no way that I could have taken that down in my first deal. Like, I didn't have the knowledge at the time or the skills to be able to. My first was 8 units, and most of the other people I know who have bought a hotel started in that range with 10 or 20 units or less. And learning by doing and gaining experience of the entire process is what's most important when you're starting out. And that is what will lead you into getting into the bigger and better deals. Like, once you have an understanding of the framework and how boutique hotel deals work, then you can apply that knowledge to any type of boutique hotel deal. And I would also strongly recommend that when you start, you just look at hotels that only have rooms revenue, meaning they don't have restaurants or venues or spas or any other revenue stream that acts as a business within the business. So only hotels that make money only by renting the rooms. And you can do upsells or product sales at the front desk as part of the booking process, but don't try to become a hotel operator and a restaurant and a spa and a venue operator. You want to set yourself up for success and learn the most important thing first, which is the hotel operation. So if you're amped up and you're ready to make it happen, this is what I would recommend. Start looking at deals. You need to get in the reps of looking for and finding and analyze deals so that you can recognize a good deal when you see it. You're going to screen out a lot of bad deals at first, and that's okay. Just keep looking, because I promise the more time you spend in the seat, the better you're going to get at finding deals. And the key to making this whole thing happen is to find a good deal, then work your butt off to put the rest of the pieces together. And of course, if I can ever help, just reach out. I hope at the end of this, you can see the path as is laid out. It's not that far-fetched for you to become a hotel investor. If anything, just the opposite. Like, people are out there doing it, and I've done it on 6 deals in the last 3 years, and there are more good hotel deals out there just waiting to be found. Mostly owned by tired, outdated operators who you can make a deal with, and a really good deal. So go out there and make it happen, and I'll see you on the next one.